Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 92 of the 476ers podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about yesterday's Warriors game. So stay tuned.
Yo. Yo. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 92 of the 476ers podcast. We're going to talk about yesterday's Sixers game, where we're going to eulogize our perimeter defense, which was murdered in cold blood by a light-skinned assassin by the name of Steph Curry with the light eyes and the gap tooth. And we have his lesser brother, the poor guy swimming in the wrong end of the gene pool. Poor fella. I'm sorry. That's not necessary. Yeah, so, we got baked. Okay. We got baked. Listen, I'll never understand how I figured it out. All of the Steph Curry is overrated, right? I was like, man, how did this begin? How could this have happened? Is it LeBron fans that wanted to do it? Is it them? And then I realized, no. There's a more dark and twisted. And it was a campaign, no less than Russia's campaign to hijack our election by hijacking the minds and the hearts of the people here. And this is something that was done by no question by KD, who hijacked the narrative in order to big up his own championships. I believe he created a troll farm of people to then start putting in the zeitgeist that somehow Steph Curry was overrated, at which point Steph then came in this season with a chip on his shoulder, the size of, not a chip, more like in the words of the great poet Hove, H to the OV, H to the Izzo, once said, a chip on his shoulder the size of a brick or a boulder. And he just firebombed us. Essentially, he firebombed us. Ben was sick yesterday, non-COVID related sickness. No surprise. I'd be sick too after Kyrie skewered me. To think that I would have to come in the next game and try to defend Steph Curry. I'd be sick as well. I'd be sick. And to be clear, again, I don't know. I don't know how. It feels sometimes like I'm on a campaign to hate on Ben, and I'm not. But maybe I should just stop giving my opinion on Ben. Maybe I should just stop that. But that would not be real. Me not giving my opinion on something, no possible way. I don't exist in a world where I'm not allowed to give my opinion. I exist in a world where I have to give my opinion, even to my detriment at times. At times I wish I didn't have an opinion on something, but I always do, and I always will. If we had not started trapping Dame in that Trailblazers game, the game that everyone continues to point to as one of Ben's best performances defensively. Had we not started trapping him in that game, he would have done what Steph did to us yesterday. It's not been a surprise. Like, this is not an unknown thing. We get skewered by guards. You know what I mean? We cannot defend guards. Guards coming against us and having routinely career highs or season highs is like nothing new. And it's weird that exists, and at the same time, we say Ben is Defensive Player of the Year. And it's just now, again, obviously Ben didn't play yesterday. Here I am talking about Ben. He didn't even play yesterday. The point I'm making is that this would have happened to Ben yesterday too, because it's very simple. All they do is they run a screen 35 feet away, and Steph shoots. It's simple, easy. It works every time. It works every time as long as you're not trapping it. This was a rough game for Doc as a coach and strategist. Doc, you've been getting baked by Steph Curry now everyone in the NBA has been getting baked, but specifically as the Clippers head coach, you have a specific relationship with Steph. You know what I mean? Because you have been getting baked in his division, in the playoffs by him with CP3 and all that. You've been getting baked specifically by him for many years. To think that you would fix your mouth to say, we have to worry about the other guys. Who are the other guys? You worried about Andrew Wiggins? No one's been worried about Andrew Wiggins for 9 years now, or 8, whatever, whenever he got drafted, 7 years. No one's been worried about Andrew Wiggins, all right? Because he just doesn't have – now, he's a nice player, and he scored 20 yesterday. What did he score, 20 yesterday? And I think he's averaging 20 since the All-Star break, which good for him. He scored 16 yesterday, which good for him. Good for him. I hope Wiggins can figure it out. You know what I mean? I hope he can figure it out. He's just missing the gear. He's missing the gear he needs to be great. But you're worried about the backpack shooter? Draymond shoots like he has the heaviest backpack on the world. I'm not worried about him. You worried about Kevin Looney? Are you Looney? Or maybe you're just tuned out. Bars. Hip-hop. You worried about Kelly Oubre, the Tsunami Poppy? He just came back coming off the bench? No, I'm not worried about him. You worried about Damian Lee, Jordan Poole? No, I'm not worried about any of those guys. Not that Jordan Poole. Listen, Jordan Poole is someone of the build. Damian Lee and Jordan Poole are both of the build of people who one day, sometime soon, will score 36 on us in a random game. But you're worried about any of these guys? No. Why? I'm worried about Steph. It's one person I'm worried about. And credit to them, their defense has been top 15 pretty much all season at least. I think it was top 20 in the beginning. Then Draymond came back, and immediately this team is built so interesting. Because Draymond is obviously the vocal leader, right? Draymond's the vocal leader. But what happens on this team, and this is something that, whether it's coaching or whether it's just the credit to Steph Curry as a player and as a leader, that the team essentially, you're worried about Kent Bazemore? No. Anyway, that the team essentially looks at Steph, right, and they say, oh, okay, Steph has 40 now in 5 minutes. Everyone, stop worrying about offense, play defense. That's it. They rally and start playing crazy defense. They played great defense against us. I got to give them credit. They played great defense. We scored 16 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. 16 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. Let me repeat that one more time. This will be the third time. 16 points. 16. My sweet 16 in the first 6 minutes. 6 minutes. 360 seconds. What? 6 minutes, 16 points. We scored 80 points the last 42 minutes of the game. 80 points. Yeah, they defended the shit out of us. Got to give them credit. Seth thought, Seth bought into the broadcast because they did a comparison. Steph has done this game, and Seth is right there, though. And then, boop, nope, Steph no more. Gone the rest of the game. No more from him. We've had enough of Steph. He is now locked. And Steph plays good defense. That's the other thing. Steph is a good defender. I know this whole weird narrative people have. I just don't think you could be watching Steph Curry enough to think that he's a bad defender. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. People thought he was a bad defender for a long time because they had so many good defenders that Steph was always the one who got singled out. He was the easiest one to score on. You're not going to get Draymond a switch for Draymond. You're not going to go get a switch for Klay Thompson. You're not going to go get a switch for Iggy. You weren't going to get a switch for Harrison Barnes, who was a good defender. Andrew Bogut was a good player, but also set screens like an animal. So you really had to be careful how you switched that. You really had to trap it most times. And so because of that, you're not going to get switches. I'm sorry. You're going to have guys who are not going to switch. I'm sorry. I'm talking backwards. Andrew Bogut was also a good defender. You're not going to have guys. You're going to have guys that are identifying Steph as the weakest link in that group. And it's true. But Steph is a good defender. He's a good defender. When CP3 hit the shimmy shot, remember? That shot was crazy. That's why he shimmied. It was good defense. And he shot up a wild shot at the end of the shot clock, and it dropped, and he shimmied. Yeah. It's a crazy shot. It was good defense. Steph is a good defender. And we don't have anybody who can challenge him right now. If Toby played yesterday, he would have helped for sure. Ben would not have. Tough game for Doc. A tough game for Doc. I'll talk about it I'll talk about it now. Trap Steph. We started trapping way too late. He's already gone ballistic, and we start trapping. We have Joe Joe is a premier defender, all right? As evidenced by that block on Steph. So that right there is the example of, when you have guys, maybe laymen or people who are watching from a distance and are like, you got a big man switched on you, you gotta drive and go to the rim. No, not really, not necessarily. It really isn't that simple, especially if you're being defended by Joel. It's really not an advantage. Steph's advantage against Joe is to stretch him out to 35 feet because Joe is too smart of a defender. He has good length, so he knows how to contest. He knows how to use his length so that he's not all up on you. You know what I mean? He knows what he's doing. He blocks Steph straight up. Yeah, of course. It's not really a surprise. You know what I mean? You're going to have to mix hezzies and dribble moves on Joel to get that. And listen, that exists for Rudy Gobert to a certain extent, too. I've seen him move his feet pretty well. He still gets crushed in pick and roll. I wouldn't trust him out there multiple times a game, but he can still recover. Bam recovers. AD recovers. Some of these big men, yeah, Joker, you can get that on. Some of these big men is not really an option to get the switch and think you're going to just drive on them. It's not really an option. You know what I mean? But we're dropping off screens and he's crushing us. And you saw him do it to Dwight yesterday where he did drive on Dwight, right? But I'd rather eat the twos. I'll eat the twos than allow him to essentially get 4 or 5 straight good looks, come off a screen wide open, 5 feet of space. That you can't do that. Tough game for Doc. In the fourth quarter, you have 2 options here. All right, I'm going to be honest. You have 2 options when Matisse is in the game. Because essentially what the Warriors did, and then what we did in response, we essentially left Matisse out there and we were playing 5-on-4 the whole time at times. Because on offense, Matisse is a non-factor. So they're essentially, in the fourth quarter, they essentially say, okay, cool. For pretty much the second half, honestly, but fourth quarter as well, they say, okay, cool. Looney is doing a good job at the initial point of contact on Joe. I got to give Looney some credit. Championship player. Yeah, these guys are champions. So, they know how to lock in when it's time to win, when it's winning time. Doing a good job at the initial point of contact on Joe. Just that split second is enough for a genius defender like Draymond to immediately be there. Who, mind you, Draymond is essentially playing center field already. He's barely playing center field. In some cases, he's standing on the other side of the paint while Matisse is on the other side, on the weak side of the floor. And Draymond is standing on the strong side. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit that Matisse is on the floor. No one's worried about him, right? Okay, so that's one. That's one. Right off the bat, we're already hurt there, playing 5-on-4. Then on the defensive side, since we're not trapping Steph, right, that can be dangerous. Sure, it can be dangerous to trap Steph because at that point, if you're playing man defense, someone's getting beat. No question about it. Someone's getting beat. And when you trap them, typically this is where Draymond's gotten half of his assists. Draymond sets the screen, they trap Steph, bounce past to Draymond, Draymond drives, somebody collapses, he hits somebody in the corner, boom, 3-pointer, right? Okay, no problem. But you have Matisse. Matisse's best skill, a lot like Ben, their best skill is playing center field. Play center field, be free safety, cause havoc. Use your length, your smarts to cause havoc. Trap Steph, and let's live with whatever Matisse is going to do. Don't assign Matisse to somebody in the corner because all what they did was say, okay, cool, Draymond, go in that corner. Matisse, we've already done all these off-ball switches to get Matisse on you. You're going to stand in this corner over here, and now we're going to set a screen with Kevin Looney or whomever, and we're going to force Steph Curry, we're going to force George Hill, we're going to force Danny Green, Shake Milton, whomever to make a decision that they're not going to be able to make. They're not going to be able to really help here. Yeah, you made a mistake. You lived with that for way too long. We probably needed George Hill in early. Poor George Hill. His first game back. Poor guy. I thought he did a commendable job for a bit and then gets shawarma'd, turned around, roasted, and served on the plate to the Avengers at the end of the first movie. Shawarma. George Hill. Poor guy. Poor guy. I've never seen a more for sure 3-pointer in my life. I wish I was fast enough. I wish that we could slow down time and I could have gone into a betting app and be like $1 million that Steph is about to hit this 3-pointer right here after he turned George Hill over 4 or 5 times. Roasted him. Poor guy. Didn't deserve it. Didn't deserve that. Didn't deserve it. We did a good job I thought we did a good job in the first quarter against Steph. It turned out that Steph doesn't like playing in odd quarters. He doesn't want to play well in odd quarters. He's going to play good in the even quarters. He had in the first quarter yesterday, I think he had 11 points, but he had 4 turnovers. You know what I mean? We were really causing a lot of issues on him, playing great defense, just, doing that thing we do. especially when Joe is in that game and we start flying around on defense, but too many weak links. You know what I mean? Too many weak links. Mike Scott had to essentially drop off. Wasn't really helping much on defense, especially when they went small. And with Draymond guarding Joe, no one can guard Joe. But everyone is. Listen, people are starting to see what the Raptors did to us is going to be the story going forward. This is how you're going to defend Joe. And as long as Matisse is on the floor, as long as Ben Simmons is on the floor, they're going to have success. Because you're going to have guys that are going to just say, yo, don't worry about Ben, don't worry about Matisse. Worst case scenario, Ben gets fouled, and now we've put him at the free throw line. In the playoffs, they're not going to give a shit about that. They're going to probably eat some of those fouls. They're going to be fine with it. And they're going to eat that if maybe Joe can hit Ben. And to Joe's credit, he did a lot of great passing. But there's not a lot you can do when in the fourth quarter you're closing the game out with a combination of Shake, Tyrese, George Hill, Seth, Danny. Just a combination of, whatever. A combination of whatever. No real point guard play. I think George Hill can round into that. But he just came back. It's going to be tough for him. We don't have anyone who can get us into an offense. Too many times where we don't go to Joe. There were certain points where we needed to go to Joe every single time down the stretch. The problem was we waited a little bit too long. We took some bad shots. Danny, you took some wild shots, bro. I thought you played well, Danny, but there were some pull-ups that I don't know where you was wilding. There's the one where they maybe should have probably called an offensive foul on you, and they didn't, and you pulled from 5 feet behind. What are you doing? Chill. No, relax. Relax. The basketball guys already rewarded you by not calling the offensive foul. Do you think they're about to reward you again for taking this terrible shot? No, they're not. That's not a good shot. Danny, chill for a second, brother. Seth, what did Seth, hold on. Seth had 15 in the first half, I think it was. Let me see here. What did Seth do? First half, boop, boop, boop. Coming down here, pop, pop, pop. Yeah, 15 in the first half. What do you do in the second half? Boop, boop, boop. Thinking. Computer is thinking. Pop, pop, pop. That's going to be the new song for thinking. Boop, boop, boop. Seth, 0 points in the second half. Seth. Furkan. Oh, man. All right, well, let's run down these players here. Let's run down. I think I've talked about the game. You get the gist. You get the gist here. Right? Danny. Again, I thought Danny played well. I thought he did a commendable job in the first half. In the second half, again, we're not trapping. Nothing you could do, Danny. It's not your fault. This is, if the NBA wants to really take away some power from the offensive, because I mentioned this to a friend of mine the other day, that there are talks about the pace of the game currently. The way these games are going, they all feel the same. You know what I mean? And it's not just because of the amount of three-point shooting. Sure, that's part of it. But it's also because you've limited how defenses can defend. Every player, any guard that can shoot is going to just come off a screen and shoot. That's all. And that's all. That's all. Screen, shoot. Steph, Dame, Trae Young, guys like fucking Colin Sexton, Kemba Walker, D'Angelo Russell when he's healthy. Kyrie, Kyrie does a lot, funner shit. And James, those guys don't even want to assess me. I think they just have fun breaking down people. But the point being, every game is hitting this certain thing that's like, this is what people are doing to score because it's easy. You're gonna have to give some latitude to defenders to fight through screens. You're gonna have to not call fouls on those sometimes. If somebody's setting a screen, you're going to have to give the defender some space to get through it, because right now is not working this way. It's not going great. You know what I mean? It's not going great. You got to get better at calling. Listen, there was one screen yesterday. I forgot who set the screen where, and I know because I do this too. You're taught to do this as a big man, right? You set the screen and roll. Right? So set the screen. As soon as you engage the screen, you roll. Because if the guy is going to go under the screen, as soon as you roll, you're going to continue taking him out of the play. And it's not a moving screen because I'm doing a natural basketball movement. Set the screen and I'm rolling. He's happening to run into me and you're even more wide open, right? Okay, that's cool. That's a legal play. They're going to have to probably officiate that out of the game. You know what I mean? They're going to have to say, no, this is no longer legal. If you set the screen, you cannot move again for like 2 seconds or something. You're going to have to do something. You know what I mean? Because right now it's impossible. There's no way you can stop. There's no way you're going to stop Steph like that, like last night. You're going to have to trap him. And Steph is great. Again, I mentioned this a million times. Steph is as dominant and as stretching the way he contorts a basketball court is the same as Shaq. Nobody, and Joe, you see it. It's so interesting watching yesterday's game, right? Because you're watching two dominant players in their own right, stretching defenses in some really unnatural ways. Joe is stretching the defense in a way we're used to. When you see a dominant big, well, if you're used to, if you watch the 90s and early 2000s in some cases, where you're watching guys double team Joe, and because Joe doesn't only operate on the block, right? Joe operates at the elbow as well. He operates all over the place. You're watching these defenses stretch and contort in really wild ways, and we are struggling on capitalizing because they know the deal. They know, one, Joe as a passer is up and down at best, right? We see yesterday he passed incredibly well. How many turnovers did he have? He had 2 turnovers at the end of the game, but besides that, he had 4 turnovers total. Those 2 turnovers happened in the last minute and a half. But aside from that, he would have had 8 assists and 2 turnovers. And if it wasn't for how long it took for us to get Matisse out of the game after he completely fucked up our defense, because they're, whatever, he probably would have had a triple-double yesterday. He passed really well yesterday, but people know that's up and down. They know to send double team him. And because all the time, we either have Matisse or Ben on the floor together, Ben or Matisse on the floor, we're kind of shit out of luck. That defender is always he's just going to collapse wild hard. And they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And they don't give a shit. This is why, I'm going to continue to say, Joe, Joe's going to have to take more liberty, and we're going to have to take more liberty saying, Joe, I want you to, at times, just attack. Don't even read, catch it and go, and finish. You know what I mean? Before that double team can get there, you're going to have to catch and go. Expect the double team to come weak side. If you're going to spin right, they expect you to spin opposite side, so they're already going to be coming weak side to try to steal that ball. Expect it to happen, but catch it and go. You're going to have to. It's the only option we have. You know what I mean? We got to force them into fouls and tough decisions. It's the only option we have. You're not Joker, unfortunately. You know what I mean? People are terrified of Joker because of the passing. Because they know that Joel to be effective, not for Joel to be effective, obviously defensively he's effective, but offensively for Joe to be effective, it's more about the scoring. You know what I mean? It's more that he's going to score 40 on 12 shots and get a bunch of fouls, right? They know that Joker necessarily it's not just about the scoring for Joker. Yeah, he can score. He scored a lot yesterday in double overtime, but it's that if you dare double team him, he is going to pick you apart, and the Nuggets built a team that's built around shooting. You cannot even think about doubling him. But as long as we have Ben, who is a negative offensive player, as long as we have Matisse, who is a negative offensive player, teams are going to just say they're going to sell out and not give a shit. They're going to live with those results. You know what I mean? They're going to live with the results of that. So, Dan, I'm sorry, I jumped off topic. Danny, I thought Danny played well. I thought he had a couple shots that were he wilding too much, did too much. Mike Scott didn't play much, didn't really offer anything, honestly. There was nothing. He didn't offer anything. The last few games for Mike has been tough. I still like Mike Scott, but the last few games have been tough for him. And essentially once they went small, Mike Scott, I don't even think Mike Scott played in the second half. I can't remember. I don't remember seeing him in the second half. Joe had a rough game, man. 8 for 21 from the field. Started pressing at the end of the game. We took too long to get him the ball. We took too long to take Matisse out. We needed to be, all right, Matisse, timeout, Matisse, come out. Get more shooting in there. Joel, go to work, and let's trap and live with the results of that. If Draymond Green is going to score, if Wiggins is going to score, we're going to have to live with the results of those things. But we can't let Steph get 50 here. I mean, it's just too much. We can't. He scored half the team's points almost. You know what I mean? Furkan, I mean, just wilding. Furkan's it's crazy. Furkan was 2 for 7 from the 3, and both 3-pointers were the exact same 3-pointer. They were the pump fake, dribble left, shoot. You know what I mean? It's the only time. If teams essentially did not jump at his pump fake, he would never make a 3-pointer. I'm convinced. He wouldn't score any points. He would not score any points. His teardrop is a teardrop. Yeah, it causes a teardrop. Tears drop every time I see him try it. Shake. Oh. Shake. I mean, what can I say about you? I mean, Shake's up and down play. Like, it's tough, man. We're not going to again, I talk about George Hill, right? About whose minutes is he going to take, right? And part of the problem here is, at different points, different times of the year, it's like, well, he could take Furkan's minutes, right? Like you look at last night, and there's just two. He could take Shake's minutes, he could have taken Matisse, even though Matisse played okay, but because no one is respecting him on defense, he could take Shake's minutes, he could take, even though Tyrese played well, he could take Furkan's minutes, he could take any of those minutes. You know what I mean? Because those guys Shake is up and down at best. You know what I mean? They just, as soon as Joe came out, everything pretty much went south once Joe came out in the first quarter. That's when their backups went on a little bit of a run, and we had no answer. There were times we could not get a bucket. There were stretches where we could not fucking score with our backups. Dwight offered nothing on offense. Lots of rebounds. He had 3 assists. That's great, but just didn't play well. Stupid fouls. One foul. Dwight, you got to stop arguing fouls, bro. You just got to stop. I'm going to talk Draymond, too. Draymond, my God. You got to start calling texts on Draymond. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to stand for it. You're either going to have to start calling texts on Draymond, or anytime that Draymond plays, you are not allowed to call a technical foul on anybody else on the court until Draymond gets his first, because he be wilding. My man is just cursing out officials on a consistent basis. It looks like he's mouthing the words to hit him up. First off, fuck your bitch and the click you claim, ref. Wow, Draymond. And Draymond has the most expressive face I've ever seen in my life. When he talks, he's mouthing words like this. Mouth is just going crazy, enunciating everything. I've never seen somebody with a more effective curse word. It's just stabbing me as I'm watching it. Oh. Dwight, you got to relax. Draymond should have fouled out. Let's be clear. That foul call that they all of a sudden just switched onto whoever, that was wild. That was wild. And that was a big foul, because regardless of what you think about Draymond, whether you think Draymond is good or bad, it doesn't matter. Draymond's a Hall of Fame basketball player. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's an incredible defender, a really good playmaker. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a champion. He's the heart of this team. He's the mouth of the team. Steph is the heart. Steph is the heart of the team. He's the soul, the heart and the soul. But Draymond is the voice box. He is the one who screams the shit talk that Steph won't do. You know what I mean? He does the shit talk. He does the yelling in the locker room. He gets the guys motivated that Steph won't do. And it's more like, you see what Steph is doing, and you're playing like shit. And look at Steph. Be like Steph. Don't be like you. And that's Draymond screaming at people. George Hill, poor George Hill. Just rough. A rough game to come back. I'm glad he's back or something. George Hill has forearms like somebody who's been breaking cast iron for years. If you look at his forearms, it just looks like he's been lifting up and putting down cast iron. You know what I mean? Just ripping out cast iron heaters for no reason. He just shows up. He hears there's a remodel, a demo at an old house, and he just shows up so he can go ahead and pick up the cast iron heater. You know what I mean? He just lifts it. They weigh 1 million pounds. I don't know if you've ever done any work with cast iron heaters. They weigh a trillion pounds. They weigh all the pounds on the world, on the planet. They weigh all the pounds. Poor guy, just got roasted. Couldn't really score. He had one nice layup. It was a good decision. It was a big bucket at that. We needed it. But not much. I thought Tyrese played well yesterday. You know what I mean? He played well on defense. The thing is it's not completely his fault. We're out there undersized. There's times where you Shake, Tyrese, and George, or Seth, Shake and Tyrese, or Seth. Just an undersized front line is not much you can do. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot you're going to do with all those guys. But Tyrese had essentially outplayed Shake, and there were those minutes down the stretch where they said, all right, Shake, you're going to have to fucking sit. Let's keep Tyrese, I guess we're going to have to do that. You know what I mean? I guess we're going to have to do that then. Our guard play right now is really rough. You know what I mean? Our guard play is rough. And I don't know, it really hurts me to say that I'm looking at yesterday's game, and I don't know that Ben would have actually helped us yesterday. I really don't know. It's crazy to say that I'm about to say that if Toby played yesterday, we probably would have won. If Ben played yesterday, I think we may have still lost. And that's kind of fucked up to say, because I don't think necessarily that Toby is better, quote unquote, than Ben all around. I don't think I believe that. But it's tough that you don't actually know times when you're looking like they're battling for the bottom spot. They're not battling for the second best player. They're battling for the third best player at times on our team. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is rough. It's going to be rough, man. It's going to be rough. You know what I mean? And our best case scenario is that in the playoffs, scoring is tough in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Games slow down. It's not these 130, 115 point games. You know what I mean? They're going to be like 92 to 88. That's what we're going to be relying on. You know what I mean? It's funny because some of the best teams right now in the NBA are that. Us, the Suns, the Jazz. Yeah, we're all teams that you're not watching a ton of games go into the 100 points. I mean, shit is slowing down across the NBA. If you just look at the scores up here, other than I'm sure Houston, Miami was high scoring. Washington, but they don't play defense. Phoenix and Milwaukee, well, Milwaukee's defense has not been good, and they're going to score a lot of points. They also went in overtime, but Phoenix has a lot of low scoring games too. Utah scored 100, but whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave my words. I sound stupid. Maybe I don't know. It's just that the scoring is not the same. We can't expect scoring to be the same in the playoffs. You know what I mean? We're going to have to rely on those low scoring games, and it's going to have to be Joe scoring 35 pretty much. Joe has to have a playoff right now, right? This is what's going to have to happen. Especially if we want to win a championship. If we want to win a championship, Joe has to have the type of playoffs like Dirk had in 2011, like Dwayne Wade had in 2004, like who else? I guess KD, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, had a crazy run through the playoffs. He's going to have a run like that where he's averaging 36 a game, 35 a game, just dominating on defense, and the rest of our team is trying to manufacture 60 points. 7 other guys are going to have to manufacture 60 points. Joe scores 35 or 40. The other 7 guys have to score 60, and we're going to have to win that way. You know what I mean? I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. It's going to be how we're going to have to win. A lot of the teams in the East are rounding into form. Boston isn't playing better, even though they lost yesterday to Chicago for no excuse, but they lost yesterday to Chicago. Boston's been playing better. Milwaukee's been steady. Milwaukee's pretty much been steady all year round. You know what I mean? They've been steady all year round. I'm not necessarily worried about Milwaukee, but a little bit. They've been challenged in the playoffs, and they've had tough losses. They're playing for the playoffs, and I do believe that. You know what I mean? Now, whether they're going to succeed in the playoffs is a different story. But, they're going to be an interesting matchup. I don't think it's, I know no one's really talking about Milwaukee, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee kind of makes some noise and people are like, oh, fuck Milwaukee. That's right. Giannis is still a fucking freak of nature. And Boston, and Brooklyn, the only good thing we're talking about here is that none of these teams play defense the way that they're going to need to actually stop us. You know what I mean? None of these teams are committed on the defensive end, like how the Raptors give us problems, how last night the Warriors gave us problems. None of these teams are committed that way. You know what I mean? Miami is the only team that's committed that way, and they are looking like flameouts. Again, I mean, I'm not really surprised. You know what I mean? This is not to big myself up or whatever. It's not surprising to me that Miami is up and down, man. They're not that good. Bam, shout out to the homie Vic. Vic asked me, he had messaged me about, when I had said when we played the Wolves that I thought Cat, was right below the Joker, Joel tier and AD if he's whatever. I'm not going to do it again. That tier, if I thought that he was better than Bam. And I said, yeah, I would rather have him over Bam. I'd rather have him over Rudy Gobert, which would be the other story. Because the truth of the matter is, I think that if you replaced Bam or you replaced Rudy with Cat, I think both of those teams have higher ceilings. You know what I mean? I think both of their ceilings go higher. And my problem with Bam is that Bam is like a sexy Rudy, which doesn't say a lot. Bam does a great job of taking advantage of other people creating for him, right? Does a great job of other people creating for him, hitting these 12-foot jump shots or those floaters from 8 feet away, kind of hits that little floater, or finishing, dunks and all that stuff. He does a great job. But I have watched him get bodied by any and everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, you saw it in the playoffs. I mean, it's not fair. AD is an animal. You know what I mean? AD is so much stronger than he looks and so much stronger than people realize. Bam can't contest. Bam needs to put on weight. He needs to get a lot stronger if he actually wants to break in to that. And credit to Rudy. Rudy is strong as a bull. The problem with Rudy is his foot speed is, he's just moves awkwardly and offensively. He's, whatever. But and so Bam, I think, needs, Bam is a better offensive player than Rudy. He is not as good of a defensive player right now because he's not as long as Rudy and he's not as strong as Rudy. You know what I mean? He's gonna have to get stronger. So we'll see. I just think, because of that, this Miami team, you're relying a ton on Tyler Hero, and apparently there's a bunch of concerns about him, like him getting famous and all this or whatever. It's whatever. You know what I mean? It's whatever. It's whatever. I haven't really been paying attention to what Oladipo has been doing or how he's fit there, but I'm not really surprised by Miami. Miami would be a team that I think could give us problems just because based off of Jimmy, if that team is gonna go as Jimmy goes, they're gonna lock in on defense, and yeah, they're gonna swarm around Joe. They're not gonna live with Bam guarding Joe one-on-one. They could never. You know what I mean? I think they know that Bam would get dominated by Joe. You know what I mean? But Bam would have success. Those types of centers, high energy guys, have success against Joe. Sometimes Joe gets lazy collecting rebounds. You know what I mean? I think that if Joe's going to have to be more aggressive on the defensive end to finish the defensive play, grab the rebounds, secure it in a more aggressive way. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. It's concerning. You know what I mean? We have trouble against point guards, man. Against point guards, we have trouble. And the reason we have trouble is because we're having Ben guard point guards. And again, just because he does it doesn't mean he does it well. Doesn't mean he does it well. He dies on screens. A lot of players die on screen right now. But the smaller players slink through the screen. Ben can't. Ben Kane's too big to get through a screen. You know what I mean? It's almost better for Ben to go under a screen every single time and try to contest. You know what I mean? And try to contest without fouling. That's almost his best bet, as opposed to trying to go over screens. You're going to have to try to go under screens. I don't see another option for you. So we'll see. Whatever. Listen, I'm not mad at this loss. You know what I mean? I would have loved just to really bolster Joel's case, because now the case for MVP is it's conflated, and a lot of people are going to Joker, rightfully so. Listen, I've heard people say, this is going to be a year we give the MVP to a guy that maybe we don't love, but whatever. But, in my opinion, no, Joker and Joe are earning this MVP without a question. They're earning it. Okay, you want to take away Joe? We're 30-9 when Joe plays, 30-10 now when Joe plays. In any other season, that would be what? That'd be like 62-20. You know what I mean? In any other season, 62-20, that's an MVP season. If he played the whole season and you said you were going to win 62 games, yeah, they'd probably give you the MVP for that. You know what I mean? But he's missed 18 games. Completely fair to use that to discredit him. I think that now Joker has had a head up on Joel for a bit, and after last night, even bigger head up, because now when we essentially needed Joe to carry us, and he did carry us, but it was just too much of a load to carry. They did too good of a job on defense, and you're going against Steph, who's averaging 40 a game in April. I mean, Steph is an animal. You know what I mean? And I'm not mad because I love Steph. I'm a big Steph fan. Steph is from the school of Tim Duncan. That type of leadership, that type of superstar, you know what I mean? Just a good guy. I love Steph. So seeing him go ballistic is bittersweet because it's against us and I want to win the game, but also because he continues to essentially get rid of all of these rumors or nonsense that people are saying that he's overrated. This bullshit. I mean, it's just crazy to think that dude is, to say the words that Steph Curry is overrated is one of the wildest accusations you could really levy in sports generally. I mean, it's wild to think that you would say something like that. You know what I mean? So it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet, but you know what I mean? Ultimately, I think that yesterday ends up becoming that because Joe, what did Joker finish with? Joker had a monster game. Again, double overtime. So I know other people don't necessarily look at that. They kind of look at that like whatever. They don't. For me, I do kind of like it, you're going to point out the double overtime numbers. Like they'll be like, oh, this guy, he scored 40 in double overtime. Like Ben Gordon would do that a lot. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but that was double overtime. You know what I mean? Steph just scored 50 in regulation. If that went to double overtime, he might have scored 75. Who knows? And this is not to take anything away from Joker. Again, I'm just saying, these numbers, people are going to use it for the argument for Joker, and it's fair. But let's also just keep in mind that, like, hey, they went to double overtime. Joker finished yesterday 47, 15, and 8. I mean, a monstrous performance. 7 turnovers. It's a lot of turnovers, surprisingly, for him. He doesn't typically turn over the ball like that. I mean, it's a monster performance, and because of that, I think that this may, knock on wood, provided that Joker doesn't get injured again, doesn't get any injured, because I hate to fucking see it. Joker probably is. This is going to solidify the MVP. I think right now, if you ask me what the MVP odds, and recency bias is always going to play a part, but because of the injuries to the other candidates, injuries to LeBron, injuries to Dame, the Giannis thing hasn't been as sexy. I have Giannis would be fourth on my MVP, but he has to be fourth. It's almost disrespectful not to have him third, but right now I would have Steph third because that team isn't good, bro. Let's be real, man. That team isn't good. Wiggins is okay. Draymond isn't a scorer. They have to get points, and Draymond doesn't get a ton of points, man. It's Steph. Their offense is Steph Curry completely. You know what I mean? And he plays good defense. They're fighting for a play-in tournament. He outdueled Joker. He outdueled Luka earlier this month. He almost outdueled Tatum on Saturday. Just outdueled Joel yesterday. Yeah, he would probably be third on my ballot, I think. If I had a ballot, it'd be right now, unfortunately, as bittersweet as this is going to say, I'm going to say Joker is first. I'm going to say, fuck it, Joel's first. But, if I was voting for real, I would lie to you and tell you that I voted Joel first place. Actually, I would vote Joel first place because I know that everyone else is going to give it to Joker, honestly. So I would just vote Joel first. But I think Joker probably is the MVP of the NBA right now. Joel would be second place, and I think Steph is third. And last night is a pivotal moment within that argument. You know what I mean? Because Steph outdueled Joe, quote unquote, and Joker had this wild game. They lost Jamal Murray, which fucking blows. And now it's Joker show all the way. It's always been Joker show, but now it's even more so. So it is what it is. That's it for now, everyone. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Black Lives Matter. Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Stop Asian hate. I'll be putting out some more podcasts. I'm working on a couple things. I wanted to do the Big Pun podcast, but I'm kind of thinking about it because I think a lot of the things I said about DMX, I probably end up saying about Pun. So I don't want to necessarily repeat myself. So I'm working on brainstorming some topics, things to talk about more than basketball. So stay tuned for that. That's it. Everyone, wear a mask. I'm getting my second shot today. Get vaccinated. Stay real. You know how that goes. Hopefully I don't die. I won't. I'm a real one. You know what I mean? COVID ain't taking me out the first time. It's not going to clap me up the second time. All right, everyone, stay safe.
Yeah. Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come